All right. Let me see who is here and who is not here. So I see Ariana. Veronica, do I see you?
Yes, I'm here.
Alyssa, yes. Elizabeth. La Destiny, yes. There, La Destiny?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Okay. Reagan? Abby, yes. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Rayuna? No. Deasia, yes. Are you there? Hello? Can you unmute your microphone? No. Paul's here. Dana, I saw you, I thought. Oh,
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
wonder why I don't get to see oh, there you are. All right.
My computer went out. I had to switch to
Oh,
my phone.
dear.
It's okay. I have another. There's always another.
Really? What are we gonna do when the next thing of 2020 is that all the computers go down and, or the internet, that's gonna be the next disaster. The internet's just gonna crash.
Sounds like work for me.
Yeah,
Well, I missed my first class this morning because I had no internet service on my phone, here at home, or anywhere.
huh,
So it's only a matter of time before everything crashes.
yep. I'm beginning to think so. Taryn, I don't see you. Whitney? Nope. Brenda, yes.
I'm
Are you
here.
there? Hi. And Talia, you're there. And Joe, are you there? No. Okie doke. So, I really enjoyed having a chance to talk to everybody in person, individually. Got a better sense of who each of the little boxes on my screen are. I hope you felt that it was useful as well. I saw, because people are working in Google Docs, that, and I get notifications when you work on them, that everybody spent a lot of time this weekend working on the letters, which you know are due today. And I set the deadline for all the way to the end of the day so that we could make sure everybody is clear about what they need to be doing, both in terms of the letter itself and also submitting. So first, let me ask, are there any questions about the letter itself? I'm going to show you again how to submit it in Blackboard. Shoot. Sorry, Elizabeth, I didn't see the thing to say to let you in. I'm going to show you how to submit again in Blackboard, but before I do, are there any questions that people have about the letters before you finalize them?
I have one slight question. If you're able to look at mine, I know I was behind. I didn't want to talk about this on class, but if you're able to look at mine, and I shared it with you yesterday.
Okay, I did not take a look at it yet, but I will before or probably after class.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay.
That's
So before you turn anything in, you always want to proofread it. Does anybody have suggestions about proofreading? Do you proofread everything before you send it in to a teacher?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's an interesting thing about the brain. Somehow you can see errors better once you've submitted something. The thing about proofreading is that you are proofreading something that you've already done and you did it yourself. And so it's inevitable that you that you know exactly what's in there. And so it's inevitable that you just kind of skim it. That's just, the way the mind works. You've seen this so many times that you're unlikely to really notice things. So the whole point of proofreading strategies is to slow yourself down and force yourself to read it again, brand new. And that's why when you submit something, this happens like if you send an email or a short text or a tweet or something. It also happens if you're working on a really big project. Something about just after you send it, you can see these things that you didn't notice because your attention is different in that different thing. So the whole point of proofreading is to kind of get your attention on something, to slow your reading down. Because reading, once you pass, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old level, you're not reading every word. You're predicting what the next word's going to be based on everything you've seen before, even if it's the very first time you've read it. So, and good readers don't read every single word. You don't need to. They've done studies where it's called cloze reading. I don't know why they got that word. It's CLOZE, where they wipe out every fifth word in a passage. And then they ask people to interpret, to summarize what they read, to read it and then tell them what they read. And they find as long as that every fifth word is not some really, really, really crucial word that is totally significant, everybody can understand exactly what they read, even with 1/5 fewer words. So again, the point of proofreading is to slow it down. One way to slow it down is to read aloud. So fortunately, you guys aren't in a busy classroom with lots of people around. And so you can read something aloud to yourself. It's preferable if you have somebody listening to you, because that kind of forces you to be more aware because you're thinking about this other person hearing you.
Because you can actually get the computer to read it to you.
You can get the computer to read it to you. It's on the bottom right?
I'm not sure. I've heard people doing this, but I haven't actually.
Yeah, I haven't actually. I've done it by mistake. I think it's the accessibility link. Maybe I'll tell you next time. If you read it aloud, that forces you to read every word. Another strategy is to read with a piece of paper under each line. One of the reasons why that helps is that it forces you to read just the line that you're looking at and not to jump ahead. So again, that forces the attention, slows you down. Another way is to read in some way backwards. Now, if you read the whole thing backwards, it's pretty hard to figure out if you've made any error. But if you read a sentence, if you read the whole document, but sentence by sentence backwards, that again forces you to go slowly through what you're doing. I should also point out that most of our software does tell us if things are misspelled or if things are unlikely to be seen weird by their squiggly lines, whether red or green, or depends on the program. A lot of times you get so used to those, you just ignore them. But if you have a squiggly line under a word, you should pay attention to it and see if it's right or wrong. Sometimes these computers are wrong because they're just computers, they create algorithms. One of the things that computers can't ever get are homonyms. So like 222, there are 3 different spellings of 2. A computer doesn't know whether you meant to say T-O, T-double-O, or T-double-O, T-W-O. So one of the things you can do with proofreading is double check for words that are likely to cause problems. And again, that's a way to slow down. To simply go through and not read for content at all, but simply go through and make sure that anytime you use some of these commonly misspelled words that you have included, that you double check that you've put the right one in there. I was wondering here. I was wondering if the handbook that I asked you to do had a list of commonly misspelled words. And I see that it doesn't, but it does have a list of spelling variations. So on page 85 in section 24A, where they have the difference between American British spelling. And those happen to be words that lots of people often confuse, which like canceled and canceled with 2 L's and cancel with 1. Finally, one of the things you need to do as a writer is become aware of your problems, your repeated types of problems. Because you've been in school many years, and even if there's been sort of a break, you should probably by now know some of the errors that you tend to have. So for example, lots of people are unclear about the use of it's with an apostrophe or it's without an apostrophe. So it's with an apostrophe is the contraction, it is, and it's without is the possessive. It's like this belongs to it. I remember this. I mean, this is a problem I have every time. I have to remind myself what the rule is. And the way I remind myself is that I was taught way away that I don't use contractions in school papers. Uh, That's a rule that's kind of changed, but I was taught that in the dark ages. And so I would tell myself, okay, I'm not allowed to use contractions, so therefore it apostrophe S won't appear in my paper. And if I use it, it's going to be the one that's the possessive. How you learn to remember the kind of errors that you have is up to you, but it's your responsibility as a writer to try to figure that out, because you're not going to be floating around with a teacher in the back of your head correcting everything along the way. And as a teacher, I often will take a paragraph. If somebody's having a lot of proofreading, editing type problems, I will often correct one paragraph to point out how many corrections need to be done, and then say, now you've got to go and do those yourself. So my job as a teacher is not to correct what you've written, but to figure out a way to help you learn how to correct before you go. So any last questions about proofreading and editing?
I was also taught to always print your paper off and have it in your hand, because if you see it visually in your hand, it's different than the way you see it on your computer.
Yes, I forgot that. That is a really good suggestion. And they've done research on that as well. People actually read better on print than they do on the screen. They remember more, they notice more. And I think it has to do with sort of the passivity of a screen, of sitting there with a screen, and that there's less chance for you to actually really interact. I mean, you don't go and touch that screen unless you've got a touch screen thing, but you do rarely. Whereas on a piece of paper, you can actually sit there with your pen and then circle something that you might have questions about. You can, underline, you can force yourself to read slowly, as I said, by covering things up. So yes, that is really good suggestion. Okay, so what I want to do is talk a little bit, remind you how to submit the paper to Blackboard. All right, I want to first point out that on the website, does everybody see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on the website, there is a page on the navigation menu called Technology Tips and Resources. And in this black box, this is a link to how to work with Google Drive and Google Docs. And I have made a little handout that kind of goes over the basics of using Google Docs. And so the first thing is, creating one, then talking about uploading, etc. Now, number 7 is the explanation about submitting into Blackboard. And I'm going to talk today about 7, 8, and 9. Later, I would probably recommend that you print this up, because you could use it, just keep it here to remind you, and I guarantee the more you do it, eventually you will remember. So So you are getting ready to submit something to Blackboard. And there are two ways to do it. One, to change your Google Doc into a Word document and then submit it as an attachment in the Dropbox. And two, keep it as a Google Doc and share it as a link. The submission place is in the week, Unit 2 material. I've changed it to the student view, which is why I have this orange thing across the top. On the submission page, just for information, it gives you the due date. It gives you the points possible. It gives you the gives you the rubric. And if you haven't yet looked at the rubric, you should look at the rubric because this is what I will use to grade. And then it gives you the assignment submission things. So one way is to attach a file. You browse your computer. I don't know. And so I'm here at ULR at the ULR computer, which doesn't have that many things, but I do have a few files that I've downloaded. So I would browse my computer and attach anything that I can, that comes up is something I could attach. So I can attach a Word document or I can attach a PDF document. I do not want you to give me PDF documents because I can't write feedback easily on them. I do want you to give me a Word or a Google Doc. And it's like, yes.
Okay, so I shared, I did my Paraletters final last week, and I shared it with you on Google Docs because I thought that's how we were turning it in, and then I uploaded it on this page today, but I did it as a PDF. So do you want me to email it to you?
To upload it again, but as a Word or a Google Doc. And
Okay.
I made the settings so you can submit more than once. So
Okay.
I think I did. If I didn't, let me know. And also I can easily erase an earlier submission if you submitted the wrong thing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Do some of your teachers want PDFs?
Yeah, I use PDFs for all of my things, unless I'm turning it in via Google Documents. I feel like my other professors, I mean, they haven't clarified necessarily, but they never said anything against them, so.
Okay. So all you need to do, it's very simple, is click on the document that you want to submit. And then here it will say what you've attached. Here's the title. And if you realize that you made the wrong decision, you can click do not attach. And there's also this Safe Assign application that's built into it. It's like, what is that plagiarism detecting thing that high schools use?
I know they exist, that's about it.
Can't remember what it's called anymore. And it sort of allows you to double check. It's unlikely to have much plagiarism in this kind of assignment. And you can also add a comment if you want to this thing. And then you click at the bottom. You can click cancel if you change your mind. You can save as a draft, which will save it in there temporarily. Or you can click submit. I think when you click submit, it'll double check that you really want to submit. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't double check. But it gives me a confirmation. Because I set this up so that you could have more than one submission, it gives you this new option, start new. We could, let's say, let me do it again. And here it is. And this time I think I'll just save draft. And so I have saved this draft in here that I've added, and I can go back and do more with it if I want to.
Now, last time that you were showing us this, you showed us where you could do a written submission and then copy the link from the Google Docs
Right.
shared area. I did that. Is that okay?
That is perfect. So that's where I'm going to explain now. So let's say this document, uploading, creating, and sharing folders in Google Drive, is what I am going to submit. I have two options. I can change it into a Word document and submit in the way I just showed you. How do I change it into a Word document? I go on File, because the File menu tells you what you can do with this file. And one of the options is to download. And then among the download options are Microsoft Word and all these other ones. I want to download it as Microsoft Word. So I click on Microsoft Word. And on the bottom of my screen, because this is a PC, it'll be in a different, slightly different place if you're working with a Mac, an Apple product. The document shows there. Show in folder. Why can't I not? Oh, I bet. So in the folder is this document. Not sure. Does this come across as part of what's shared? Are you still looking at the,
Yes, we can see the screen.
can you see the folder?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
We can see everything.
So now it's in my folder. And if I go back to the submission thing, oh, that's the document. All right, so I want to remove that other thing that I was attaching. And this time, I will look for this Word document I just created, and I will attach that. And then click submit. So that's one way. You change it into a Word document and then attach. The other way is to get a link for the document by clicking on share. And I want to get a link, and I need to pay a little bit of attention to the small print. So it says here, University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Anyone in this group with this link can view. So that's the right audience, but it's not the right modality. So I want to change it. So I still want University of Arkansas at Little Rock as the audience, but I want to change that to editor or commenter. And as I showed a lot of you, if it's comment, then text that's put on there will show kind of like a track changes. If it's editor, text that's put on there will be just with that. Either one is fine. Let's say I'm going to do commenter. I click done. I'm not sure I copied link. Copy link. So anyone in this group can comment. Copy link. Now I'm going to go back to my upload assignment. And in this case, I'm going to do it in the assignment submission box. The reason for that is that I'm submitting it as a text submission. If I put it on the assignment submission box, I get all the editing commands. So, which is preferable.
Okay, so you do prefer us to type it in the submission box of the
Right, the
attachment.
text submission.
Gotcha.
I'm not asking you to type the whole paper there. I'm just having you put the
Attachment.
there.
Mhm.
Here are my. Now, so I've just cut and pasted the link. If you do that, I will be able to read it. If you want to make life even easier for me, you will actually make that a hot link by selecting it and then going to this little icon, sort of in the middle. It's in the middle row, in the middle of the row. It says insert edit link. You click on that and it says link path, and I put the link there again and I insert. That makes it hot. It's just a little easy, you know, so I'll have one fewer step to go about doing it. If you don't do it, I can still get at it by copying and pasting and putting it in the browser. And then I can do the same thing and I can click submit. I'm going to go into my own now I'm looking at it from a teacher. And I want and so you can see all the people who've already submitted their letters. And this is what it looks like from me. Here are my letters and here's the clip. So to reiterate, there are two ways to submit. You can submit it as a Word document or you can submit it as a link. You submit it as a Word document, you're just attaching the file. You submit it as a link, you cut and paste the link into the text submission box.
I use the browse my cloud storage button. Do I need to,
I don't think that usually works very well.
I'll download the Word doc and put it back in.
If you were able to get it, fine,
I
but,
mean, it looked like it's submitted.
okay, well, we'll double check, and if not, I'll just let you know. Okay, questions about the whole submission process? All right, so I'm looking forward to reading and grading. Grading's my least favorite process, of course. All right, so today's kind of a transition day. We are shifting now to the next unit of the course. The next unit of the course is designed to help you find out more about writing in your intended profession or discipline. By that I mean, you're hoping to become a nurse, you're hoping to become a social worker, you're hoping to become an IT professional. What is the kinds of writing that you expect to do, can expect to do in that once you get a good job in that profession? Some of you may not be quite clear. Almost everybody is, but some of you might not be quite clear what kind of profession you want to do. So you can treat this as what kind of writing is expected in my discipline, meaning in my academic discipline. So you probably already realize that there's writing that's different for different situations. We've talked about that already. This whole writing class is more about writing in sort of professional situations instead of at school. The kind of writing you've been asked to do in school tends to be academic papers of one kind or another. Sometimes they ask you to think about audience and purpose, but most of the time it's just like writing for the teacher about what you know. That's one kind of writing. It's a very valuable kind of writing. It's unlikely to be the kind of writing that you're going to do on the job because you'll have different purposes and audiences. And so the purpose of this assignment is to give you an opportunity to find out more about the kind of writing you can expect to do on the job. In order to find this out, you're going to be doing a little bit of research. The primary research you're going to do is to talk to somebody in this profession, somebody who is kind of, what you kind of aspire to be, and who could tell you about their experiences and the expectations that you would have. So one of the things that you'll be doing is interviewing a professional.
Can that be via email? I know the woman that I would like to do, she mostly communicates via email at the moment.
Yes. Yes. That's not very close, is it? By the end of this semester, keep going to the, okay. right, so the primary research source that I'd like you to work with are interviews. I'd like you to think about that so that by Thursday, you have an idea of whom you would like to interview. Additionally, I'm going to ask you to look at organizational websites for professional organizations and see what you can find there. So this is part of my goal to sort of professionalize you within the discipline or profession that you're aspiring to. Every discipline, every profession has these organizations that they include information on. And those organizations in the real world normally have conferences where people all go to and learn new things and talk to each other. Now all those conferences are virtual, but they're actually still going on. They also all have these really great websites that have a lot of information on them for people interested in going into that profession. And so I want you to go take a look there and see what kind of resources they have, specifically about writing, but also about pretty much everything to do with the profession. And the third source is articles in academic journals about the writing in that discipline. That'll usually be academic journals that focus on teaching, that are focusing on, what are the things that we need to teach students in our discipline. So for example, there are numerous nursing education journals, and they will often have articles about what we should be teaching in our nursing classes in terms of content and in terms of writing and everything else. So those are the things that I'm going to be asking you to take a look at for this project. And the goal will be, or the final result will be, an informative report about writing in the profession. It's going to be, I want you to imagine that you are writing for like a student group of people like you who are interested in this profession, and you're trying to give them all the information they need about the writing that they will be doing in their profession. Now, I've put the assignment up on Blackboard. No, not Blackboard. I'll get it on Blackboard, but on the website. Under major assignments, the first one was a pair of letters. And now I've added this informative report writing in a discipline or profession. And here are the key dates. So by a week from Thursday, you should have completed the interview and bring the notes or recording, whatever to use in class. The drafts will be due on Thursday, October 22nd. And we'll have peer review that day. And then the final version will be due in Blackboard on Tuesday, October 27th. So basically, this is a project for the month of October. The material under here kind of explains what I just summarized. And I include a little handout here on resources for researching. Item 1 has to do with using the library database, and we will talk about this in class, but here's a handout too. And item 2 is about locating organizations in a field. And I think over the years, I've had students from different majors in this class. I think I have one for all of you, but if I don't, make sure I know. And each of these, it's kind of overwhelming really when you start looking. So here's the link to nursing organizations. All these are nursing organizations. Now, some are bigger than others. Some are more local, some are subtopics. Notice I'm on this page and I got a little pop-up. Wonder what other nurses are making? Help the nursing community by taking our salary survey. So these organizations, so this was on something called nurse.org, which itself is a nursing organization. These organizations do a lot of things. They deal with instruction and preparation for further people in the community. They do some advocacy. If there are salary issues, they do stuff with recruitment. And so, there's just many, many different things here. All right. And then the final thing on this assignment sheet is connecting to the outcomes of the course as a whole. So I've been kind of rapidly going through it. Are there questions?
You probably went over this, but where can we find this on Blackboard, or can we only find it on your Weebly?
As of right now, it's just on Weebly.
Okay.
I haven't figured out. I will make a Dropbox in Blackboard that'll have a link to it.
Okay,
But,
awesome. Thank you.
So again, back on the website, it's major assignments, informative report writing on a profession and discipline. So notice, I had weeks 1 through 6 as a unit. I will be starting weeks 7 through, I guess it's 7 through 9, which will be this unit. And this will be what we work on now. So this is the unit 3 major assignment, and you'll find all that there.
I really like how organized your website is.
Oh, well, thank you. Has
You're
everybody always been able to find it? And if you can't find information, or if it somehow isn't organized, please let me know. I prefer putting things on a website over Blackboard. I think I explained that Blackboard had a serious crash meltdown a couple years ago, and that's when I started putting things on websites. This semester, I'm teaching 2 classes that I've not created a website for. So I'm just sticking them on Blackboard, and it is reminding me again that Blackboard is driving me crazy, because I tried to put up all this content this weekend for these 2 things, and it's just, it's so much more complicated to add all my information. And then you have to go, it just, and it also doesn't look very nice. So I realize that from a student's perspective, there is a slight problem that having you check on 2 different sites, a Blackboard as well as the course site. I realize that is a little bit more work on your end, but I hope that by providing all this stuff in a very accessible, permanent way. For example, you can get all this on your phone. You just download the Weebly app on your phone and you can open it all up. And Weebly is, unlike Blackboard, is mobile friendly in terms of the display. Does anybody try to use Blackboard on their phones?
I mean, it doesn't app, but it's,
Yeah, the app.
It sucks. I hate the app.
Mine
and
works on my phone.
Mine
it's
doesn't.
okay for like announcements and stuff, but I'd hate to actually try to do work on it.
Yeah. Anyway. So, all right. Now I'm talking about writing in your profession and disciplines. What does that really mean to talk about writing? So I'm going to introduce a couple important terms. This is not the only thing to be finding out about, but this is a good start. One of the things to find out about are the genres that are used in your profession or discipline. What is a genre? You might have been taught in literature classes about the literary genres: poetry, drama, fiction. That's probably, and maybe creative nonfiction. Maybe that's the fourth genre that you might have been taught about. Well, genre applies to any kind of writing, any kind of discourse. And what it is sort of the forms, the general forms that have developed because they are really useful in that particular situation. So in college, there is a genre of the college research paper. And it pretty much exists only in college situations, but that still means it exists in that college situation. And it's like the teacher says, find out everything about X, Y, or Z, and use at least 10 sources, and needs to be at least 10 pages. Those are some of the features of the college academic research paper genre. So that's a certain kind of genre. We just spent several weeks learning a totally different genre, the letter. And in a few cases, I suggested to people that you change it to a memo, which is very similar, but usually used in internal organizations instead of from outside to inside. Everybody's letters, although they have different contents, are really familiar and similar to each other. They all have the internal address and the sender's address, and dear so-and-so, and a sincerely so-and-so. Why did those patterns develop? Well, because it was kind of necessary, no matter what situation, for you to have addresses, know who's writing. And a date. They always have a date as well. The reason why they developed that way, it's kind of like why every single fast food restaurant sort of has the same model. If somebody were to invent a fast food restaurant that was totally different from McDonald's, Burger King, and everybody else, everybody would be confused, and it would take too much time and effort trying to figure out what to do. But instead, every single fast food restaurant is roughly the same size. It has a bathroom in the back. It has a counter at the front where you order things. It usually has some place where you put condiments and that you can go get. And then it has tables over here. Now, of course, our current situation with the pandemic is forcing us to kind of modify some of that. because now they have to do curbside pickup and, hand washing and ordering in advance. And so they may have changed it so you can only enter in one door and exit another door. They may have changed it so they blocked off all the tables and there's only just the curbside pickup. But it's still roughly the same genre of restaurant. So you, as a person who is part of American society, without even thinking about it, you know how fast food restaurants are set up. The same thing happens with writing genres. So as a person in an American society, when you get a letter, you know where you expect to see the date, you know where you expect to see all the, the to and the from, and that saves you time and effort. And the person who's writing the letter, they know where to put the dates and time, et cetera, and that saves them time and effort. You don't have to be creative and come up with a new plan. That's the idea behind genres. They are formats, structures, types, purposes that are used over and over again in a certain situation. And so everybody starts developing rules, and it's not like somebody goes up and says, here are the rules. It's more like they develop over time because that structure works. And then somebody says, okay, now here's the rules. And that happens in your jobs. So if you're a nurse, there is a purpose of recording people's situation. And that's a necessary kind of thing so that other health professionals working with the same client or patient has the data and knows what's happened. And so every hospital will develop its own system of recording patient notes. And as it turns out, now there's software, so there's all these systems, and I guess Epic is the main system for recording all the patient information and notes that everybody needs to learn to write into. That's writing. So learning to fill in a standard form is part of the writing that might be in a discipline. So I'll stop there. Are there any questions on that? Okay, so the other big term I am introducing is documentation. And you've probably heard about this. Many of you are in disciplines that really like the APA, which stands for American Psychological Association. And I know in the nursing classes, for example, and I think in the social work, they are requiring you to use APA format. If you were in an English class, they would want you to do MLA format. If you are in a psychology class, they also probably want you to do APA. If you're in a science class, they might want you to do the American Chemical Society format. If you are in law, they want you to use what's called the Blue Book or Allwid, the newer one. So each discipline develops its own system of documentation and formatting of various sorts. So that's another thing I want you to find out about in your discipline. And as you read the assignment sheet, it says the paper should be in APA format unless your discipline wants something else. I pick APA because that's the most commonly requested. And APA stands, by the way, for American Psychological Association. So with that, I'm going to stop. How many of you have heard of the APA Just.
Yes.
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 The APA consists of both a documentation scheme, meaning how you cite sources, and a formatting scheme, meaning how you format the papers in terms of single space, double space, et cetera. And I am most interested in the documentation, the how do you cite sources. Although I know that there are some teachers out there that are very concerned about the formatting of papers. So we will definitely go across that later. Okay, so for Thursday, come up with an idea of who you want to interview in your intended profession. For tonight, make sure you've submitted your paper. And also read the whole assignment sheet, which I kind of jumped over, just so that make sure that you understand what you're being asked to do. And then we'll talk some more about it on Thursday. Okay,
All right.
questions?